kind of a bittersweet day, I think, if you're a Cowboys fan who has watched and supported this team over the last several years with the cutting of Ezekiel Elliott. He's going to be a post-June 1 cut, of course, for this team, and now them moving on. Just before we get into, obviously, the roster move itself, what it means for this team going into the future, just your overall thoughts and memories of this player who has given and gave so much to this Cowboys organization over the last 7 years.
Yeah, Zeke he wasn't just a good player. I mean, he was a great player. And you expect, I guess, if you take a guy at number 4 that he turns out to be a great player. But as we all know, that doesn't always happen, right? Go back to the 2018 draft, and Baker Mayfield was taken at 1 and Sam Darnold at 3, and Baker's working on his 4th team and 5th team, I guess, now. Same for Darnold. So, just because you take a guy up high doesn't mean that they turn out to be the player that you're hoping they would be. But I think Zeke has been that, and really probably more. And if he hadn't lost those 6 games, guys, to the suspension in 2017, he probably leads the league. Well, he led the league in rushing in 2016 and 2018, probably leads it in 2017. So his first 3 years in the league, he was going to be the NFL's leading rusher that year. And I don't know how far you have to go back to find that, if ever, maybe, that a guy has come into the league and led his first 3 years. But he was, he was a great player. That the problem in the NFL and in most professional sports, not so much in the other ones, I think, though, but I always say there are no gold watches, right? When you work for a company and you put in your 20 years or 30 years and they give you a gold watch at the end and they have a dinner party for you, and that just doesn't happen in the NFL. You wake up one day and you're a Dallas Cowboy, and the next day you wake up and you're going to be somebody else's property.
We're talking to Babe Laufenberg right here on 105 Through the Fan. And Babe, obviously this decision is one that there's probably a time when you look at Jerry Jones and you go, I don't know that he is willing to make this move. And so with that alongside the news of Stephon Gilmore being acquired, do you have any feeling of a shift in the way that the organization views it, or do you feel like this is that's making a little much out of what the news of the last couple of days has been?
I think the latter. I think they just happen to coincide. And you have to remember, too, Stephon Gilmore, which I know you guys know, I mean, he's 33 years old. He'll be working on his 4th team in 4 years. We all love the name, right? Oh, they got Stephon Gilmore. He was a defensive player of the year, but that was 2019. He was injured then. And, I heard somebody talk about getting another ball hawk. Well, he's had 2 or fewer interceptions in 5 of the last 6 years. Now, I'm not putting a knock on him, but you're not getting the same Stephon Gilmore that we saw shut down Amari Cooper up in New England, held him to, I think, 1 or 2 catches for about 8 yards in that game. So we'll have to see, what he is today. I'll be honest with you. I didn't see a ton of Indianapolis football last year, and I certainly didn't concentrate on Stephon Gilmore. So I will go back, look at the tape of what he did last year, but certainly a veteran presence. And it's interesting, guys, I was up at the Star today. I was taping something with our president, right, Brian Purdy, of the Fan, and Stephon Gilmore walks into the room where I was. So we had a nice chat. Seems like a really nice young man. And I can say young man because I'm in my 60s and he's in his 30s. He's an old man football-wise, but he's a young man as far as I'm concerned. But we had a nice conversation, and he's certainly thrilled to be here. He's always been a Cowboys fan, he said. And what was interesting, he came and visited when, you get your 30 players that can visit before the draft. He was one of those guys in 2012, that 2012 draft. Now, the Cowboys ended up taking Mo Claiborne in that draft at number 6, and Buffalo then took Stephon Gilmore at number 10. So he's very excited to be here, though. He's always been a Cowboys fan, he said, and you can just see it in his eyes. He's excited.
Well, that's good to know. Stephon Gilmore already in Dallas after being traded.
Yeah, he's in Dallas. Unless somebody was impersonating him that I was talking to.
It's already here in Dallas. Now, as we spin this forward, Babe, obviously a team that still has some needs to fill when it comes to still addressing the running back room potentially in the draft, but also on the outside for a pass catcher. Where are you in terms of what the needs are based on what this team has done so far in free agency via the trade with Stephon Gilmore, and what you still would like to see them do?
Well, I don't think any team, as you guys well know, plugs all their holes. I always like it. I'll be on the street, having my coffee. Somebody that's up, hey, babe, do you think we're going to draft a running back? Because, I think we need a running back, an offensive lineman. We need a guard. We need a tackle because Tyron Smith's getting older. And we need like 2 big play receivers. And we need, I'm okay. You do understand you just drafted 28 players in your conversation, right? So you try to fill holes as best you can. Connor McGovern, left guard, going off to Buffalo. I don't think anybody looks at it and says, oh, wow, what are we going to do without Connor McGovern? But he was a good, solid player for the Cowboys last year. So they're going to have to fill that hole. And, it's interesting because you're all excited, we got Tony Pollard back. Well, you had Tony Pollard. So you're not adding anything. And trust me, I'm happy to see Tony Pollard coming back, but they need another running back, clearly. The days of, unless you're in Tennessee with Derrick Henry, the days of giving a guy the ball 30 times a game, those are over. So you definitely need another running back, and you need playmakers. And when you look at that 49er game, and I'm there, I'm looking at it, and I'm watching it during the week and all that, they had 4 playmakers on offense. And I'll take the quarterbacks out of the equation. But they had Brandon Ayuk, they had Deebo Samuel, they had George Kittle, they had Christian McCaffrey. And then you throw in Juszczyk, who's a Pro Bowl fullback, right? I mean, they had playmakers all over the field. And the Cowboys had 2, CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. And then when Pollard went out, obviously in the second quarter, they were really down to 1 playmaker. Dalton Schultz, nice tight end. Noah Brown, give him a lot of credit for the career that he's had, but they weren't guys that were going to threaten the defense, whereas the 49ers had 4 of those guys that were going to threaten the defense.
Now, Babe, I love talking to you as a quarterback because you give me some great perspectives on the quarterback play in the NFL. And obviously, when we come to the draft, quarterback ends up being a big conversation because of how important the position is. And we have 2 guys that, as prospects, people feel a lot more confident on what their production will be in C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. And then 2 guys that seem to be some level of development, one in Will Levis and another that is, a lot of talent, a lot of tools, but maybe not a lot of production already in Anthony Richardson. It feels like we've gotten to a place where people are starting to point at Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts' development and saying that you can take the toolsy guy and build him. Do you feel like that has changed, that we're in a place where a guy can kind of change his stripes in a way when he gets to the league? Or are you you would like to see that production at the college level before you start looking for a quarterback prospect?
You'd certainly like to see it at the college level, right? And so then you're not projecting saying, well, I think we can turn this guy into this and this and this. The Richardson's going to be an interesting guy. I think if he hadn't had the combine, obviously, running 4.43, and I understand he did run 4.43, but if you just look, you got to put his tape on. You got to make the tape that you see over the course of his season far more important than telling me his cone drill, his shuttle time, his 40 time. Ultimately, you got to be able to put your foot in the ground and throw the ball down the field. Those are the guys that win. So I will be honest, I haven't taken my dive into the quarterbacks, but I will. I will have to send you. So I tweeted last year before the draft my thoughts on the guys coming in. And it was funny. I ended up nailing them. You don't always do that. Mm-hmm. But I said, don't sleep on Bailey Zappi as a mid-rounder. Then the guy goes to New England as a rookie and, obviously didn't start the whole year, but when he played very well. Sam Howell, I loved. And matter of fact, Washington was not going to take a quarterback in that draft, but when Sam Howell was sitting there at the 5th round, they also liked him and said, well, geez, we're going to get this guy. I wish the Cowboys over any number of years had done that. I would take a quarterback almost in every draft. And it's not, I'm not saying I'm getting one to replace Dak, mm-hmm. but you want to keep developing him and having him there and not be in that situation that they were in for a number of years where backups were coming in for 1 year, Andy Dalton and people like that, right? They'd have 1 year and then they're gone, 1 year and gone. Develop a young guy. And, hey, I'll give you a great example. the New England Patriots kept 4 quarterbacks. And, of course, this was pre-practice squad. They kept 4 quarterbacks on the active roster in 2000 because Brady was the 4th guy. And they saw enough – Bill Belichick saw enough in Brady that he didn't want to expose him to getting picked up by a team. They kept 4 quarterbacks on the active roster. Did that pay off for them?
I think you could say so.
I would think.
They could work out for
everybody
him.
was like, it's like, is this guy a lunatic? They're keeping that skinny guy from Michigan. They're keeping 4 on the active. That's a valuable roster spot. But obviously, it was the right move. So again, you just cannot. To me, you cannot sit there and develop enough quarterbacks. Even to the extent last year, the Cowboys only kept 3 on the roster. I would have had another one on the practice squad. And you can bring them in. Hey, bring them in for 2-3 weeks. Take a look. You don't like them, bring in another guy for 3 weeks. But somewhere along the line, you're probably going to hit on a guy that down the road is going to help you out.
You can find him on Twitter at Babe Laufenberg. He is the color analyst for the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Wait, before we let Babe go, Babe, earlier I was recounting a story of how, like, me and a friend of mine just went golfing in the middle of the day, or another time we went bowling in the middle of the day. What's your favorite middle of the day time-killing activity?
It would be called a nap.
That's never fails, babe. Never does.
I love it.
They call it a nap. Yeah, no. I was listening. I don't, and I got to thinking, gosh, what would I do middle of the day? I don't really, I'll work out. I'll do all the things that I would do, I guess, otherwise. I like reading. Pretty boring stuff, to be quite honest. But but I think a nap is at the top of the list. If you've got that time to kill, especially on the weekend. You put on the golf tournament and you just fall asleep.
Yeah, or you put on speed at 2 p.m. and you just go to sleep. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, as always, babe, appreciate the time for joining us here on the Get Right of Reggie KG on 105 through the Fan. Appreciate it.
Okay, Reggie, Kevin, thank you guys very much. Appreciate it, man.